Greetings, Master Duel enthusiasts! Do you like the range anime and the mid-range strategy of Salamangreat, but just simply don't vibe with the average male fantasy of Soulburner, and you relate more to the strong, independent female deuteragonist like Blue Maiden? What do you mean that's just me projecting? You are here for the water waifus, aren't you? Fine. Well, I have just the deck for you. This is the Deck Deep Dive Marincess Edition. Marincess' basic strategy revolves around link climbing, being able to make link 3 or even link 4, sometimes invulnerable, boss monster with powerful effects from only one starter card. What sets Marincess from other archetypes, however, is their equipping gimmick with Marincess Battle Ocean, equipping other Marincess link monster in the graveyard to the one you have just summoned to make one really big monsters. With an extremely light card package, Marincess can offer various builds and playstyle to complement their basic game plan. If all that managed to caught your attention, then good. We shall jump to card by card and I can finally show you where that good stuff is. First, let's talk Marincess Blue Tank, easily the best monster we have in our deck. Not because she acts as a foolish barrel to help us assemble combo pieces, and also not because she can potentially get us one more card when used for a link summon. Not even because she can chain block our important effects. By the way, if you don't know what chain block is, that will be explained later, hopefully. Now, it's because her initials are MBT, that's why she's the best card. Always play 3 copies. Next is Marincess Seahorse, who can special summon herself to a Marincess Link hero, and after the turn she was sent to the graveyard, can self-banish to special summon another water monster to a Marincess Link hero. I feel like the second effect hardly comes up, but she's another easy 3 copies as she's also a 1-card combo, as we will soon discover. After that is Marincess Pascalus, who can special summon another Marincess on summon, and for her second effect, she features spell and trap recursion by self-banishing after the turn she has been sent to the graveyard. She is either played at 2 or 3 copies. There isn't much to write home with these effects, but it does provide the potential from rank 4 plays, since herself, MBT, and our next card are all level 4s. With that being said, let's get to Marincess Springgirl, who can special summon herself by banishing another Marincess from the graveyard. For her second effect, if she's used to link summon a water monster, she can mill cards up to the number of Marincess names already on the field. A decent effect to potentially dump more Marincess names into the graveyard for recycling with various of our effects, or to use their banished effects. She does burn for 200 for every Marincess card that you get to mill, which while isn't really realistic, it's just a nice little throwback to... Oh! Let's just get to the one-up contenders of the deck. Let's get started with Marincess Mandarin, whose only effect is a special summon from hand or graveyard to a zone that your water link monster points to, if, and only if, you control 2 or more Marincess monsters. Now, the number of copies that we play is interesting to say the least. Ideally, we have better combo starters, and while we don't ever mind not seeing Mandarin on our hand, she can be a good extender if we do ever draw into hers along the other Marincess. So maybe she should be at either 0 or 1 copies? However, some TCG top lists in recent times, I say recent, but I don't know how long I have spent making this video, so that might change, has opted to play her at 3, and the reason for that is, well, I guess we'll get there when we do get there. The deck building session, I mean. For now, let's just get to our next card. That would be Marincess Sleepy Maiden. Just look at her. She's so icky. She's everything to me. But no, seriously, sees everything. Don't you just love it when a new card is released that fixes a deck weakness and dependence on one card? I certainly do. Sleepy Maiden is exactly this. Aside from her ability to special summon herself as long as there's a Marincess card on the field, her self-banish effect is the creme de la creme, allowing you to use Battle Ocean Light, whipping only one Marincess Link monster from the graveyard to another that you control. Doesn't seem like much, but this help enables one of our boss monsters, even if we don't have Ocean. Best of all, you can use this effect as soon as Sleepy Maiden is in the graveyard, so despite her sleepiness, she seems to be more active than her other sisters. Aside from that, there's also a hidden effect. Hidden as in most people might not even read the card and they might not even know about this effect. She can protect whichever Marincess she targeted for her special summon from destruction effects. This might hardly comes up, but it might save game, so if you can read into a disruption, say a Gamma or an Ogre, maybe try and make a play with this effect. Protecting Coral Anemone or Battle Ocean is often the best and most likely to be available situation, but don't feel pressured and mess up any of your combos if you cannot afford to do this. All of these bangers effects are at a very steep cost. Sleepy Maiden is a level 5 monster, so if you only draw her, it's kinda over. That is the only thing stopping her from being the second best card. Yes, still after MBT, but then again, so she's either played at 0 copies or 1 copies, depending on your preference. Okay, now all that is left is to quickly run through cards that we won't ever play. Properly, I mean, you do you. It's your deck, build it the way you want. 1. Marincess Crown Tail is a battle hand trap in the year of 2023. Just don't play it. Next is Marincess You know, I'm not even gonna try.
Basilalima.
There we go. Okay. In another universe where Marincess has more than one good trap card, she would be a 3 in every list. This, sadly, is not that universe. She provides protection over card's effect while in the graveyard, so that's half a Bailings. That's kinda nice. She has an attack boosting effect, but I kinda don't care honestly. All in all, a missed opportunity. I wouldn't play the card, but few lists have seen success with one of it, so as I said, experiment. You can do that. With all of that finally out of the way, now onto the spells. This should be short and sweet because Marincess only has 2 in archetype spells. First being Marincess Battle Ocean. For a very long time, this was the only spell the archetype had, and for such a special role, it was also the card that gave us our special gimmick. When a Marincess monster is special summoned to the extra monster zone, we can equip up to 3 Marincess Link monsters to it. This does a lot. 1. While normally attack buffs aren't something that we would be concerned with, Battle Ocean gives a whopping 2000 attack increase as 3 equips, making beating over a boss an entire ordeal. 2. If Crystal Heart, a card that I'll mention later, was used as a material, then our monster becomes unaffected by card effects. 3. The whipping effect can be used to chain block or more important effects, such as searches. And it isn't a once per turn. This card is vital to our strategy. We can search it, so play it at 1 or 2, though is preferred at 1. For our second and other spell card, we have Marincess Dive. If Dive has 1 million fan, I am one of them. If Dive has 1 fan, I am the fan. If the world hated Marincess Dive, which cannot be true, this card is amazing. I am against the world. If Marincess Dive has no fan, I simply no longer exist. This card single-handedly elevates the Marincess strategy to 1 card combo level of consistency. Dive resets follow with 2 effects. 1. Special summon a non-link Marincess in the graveyard. Or 2. Summon another from the deck if you already have Battle Ocean on the field. If you happen to only have 1 summonable Marincess monster from the hand, it will instantly turn into a Link 4 at the very least, granted that you aren't interrupt. If you also have Ocean on the field, you instantly have access to run the name that plus you off in some way. This card is, again, amazing. You have to play that too at the very least, which is probably the perfect ratio, because while we do want to see it in our hands, we don't ever want to see more than 1 copy. So playing 3 is an option, but I would suggest against it. So now onto traps. Let's just run through everything else quickly before we get to the good one. 1. Marincess Bubbling, Cascade, and Current. Battle Trap. I think I have let on enough about how I feel about them. 2. Marincess Snow. It triggers when our monster is destroyed, which should be something we're trying to prevent, seeing our entire strategy is having one indestructible boss monster, so it's an insurance card for a situation that we should not ever want to happen, so I don't think it's an effective option. 3. Marincess Circulation. Actually more interesting than it looks. Theoretically, we can use this and be able to use 2 of our Link 4 boss monsters in the same turn, but I still feel like it would undermine our strategy here and the invulnerability we are supposed to give to our boss monsters, so again, I don't think it's a good choice. Okay, so now onto what we're here for. 4. Marincess Wave. So it's a negate that activates from hand as long as we have a Link 3 or higher on the board. That's like a searchable hand trap, and it makes our monster unaffected. Yeah, I'm in. Also, I want to give the credits to the design while I'm at it. It's like the higher Link rating the monster has, the bigger the waves they make and you get bonus effects. I like that. That's really creative. You usually run this at 1, but I've seen people run it at 2. Okay, so now we can finally get on with our extra deck, so let's get started with our Link 1s. Marincess Sea Angel. A card that's core to our strategy and is also, for that reason, one of the biggest choke points in the deck. Before she just said, if the card is Link Summon, add Battle Ocean to your hand. But die release and they had to do an errata for her. Now she has any Marincess spell and is one of the most powerful effects we have access to for clear reasons. Play her at 2. Marincess Boost Luck. You get to recycle a Marincess, but they'll lock in you into waters. Simple. What's not simple is the fact that the card often combos with MBT's Foolish Bear effects, essentially granting you a new Marincess name from thin air. Players inexperienced against the deck might actually go ahead and imperm this instead of Sea Angel, so you can plan which to make first according to your hand and try to bait your opponents. She should also be played at 2. Onto the Link 2s. Coral Anemone can special summon any water monster with EVO or under 1500 attack to her Link Arrow and they won't be negated. So, if you haven't used them earlier in the combo, MBT and Pescalus can activate their effects here. If she's sent to graveyard as either a Link material or an E-Whip, you can add back any Marincess card. Very powerful effect. Play her at 2. Marincess Crystal Heart. She's unaffected in the extra monster zone by herself, so maybe you can hope that your opponent misread, misclick, and try to pop her mid-combo. Maybe they throw a Nibiru, who knows? The remaining of her text isn't all that important, just know that she provides unaffected status as a Link material when Battle Ocean is on the field. Okay, that part is important as it enables us to get to the unaffected part in our strategy and insane resilience in our combo. Side note, for the sake of clarity, from this point onwards, I might use the word unaffected interchangeably with the word towers. Just a reference to one of the most notorious unaffected boss monster in the game and help save word counts on good dogs. I wish I was joking. Few topping players in the TCG actually do not play the card, which is surprising, but I guess they do have Toad. Well, with the ban of Toad in Master Duel, the insurance this card provides, combined with the fact that a best of 1 format levitates a lot of board breakers and generally clueless players, I believe Crystal Heart deserves a spot in our extra deck. And to the Link 3s. Marincess Mabarak used to be our only boss monster, so effect includes battle protection by discarding a Marincess card, usually the one that you added back with her own effect. Nowadays, she acts mainly as an additional source of resource recovery, potentially for a push turn, but you can still make her going first as a safe measures. With that logic, we can play her at 1. Marincess Coral Triangle, our new favorite Link 3, and at last making Marincess Wave, or the traps, but I cannot see the point, searchable. Is more like a trade though. You have to send a water monster from your hand to get this search. Normally the Marincess you just added back with Coral Anemone. Huh. Coral Anemone? Coral Triangle. Maybe they're related, but I'm not looking into the biology of this. Anyway, with her, even if the opponent finds a way to wipe our entire board, she can just self-banish as long as the opponent controls a monster to summon Link monster with rating that adds up to 3. Then afterwards we can go into Marble Rocks, regain our momentum, and just win the game from there. This card is insane. Peak design. At last, the part that you've all been waiting for, Link Force. Marincess' Great Bow Reef is our own in Archetype Introduction. For the uninitiated, that means she draws a card and that is good. That's why Maxi is the best card in the game after all. Alright, less rambling. In the standby phase, she can banish one monster from our graveyard or face-up field, which we should have plenty of at this point, and she'll gain 600 attacks in the process, as a monster has been banished. If a max Equip Battle Ocean is present, she can go up to at least 5200 attacks, which very few monsters can go up against. Great card to finish off your turn 1 and recover more material for the next turns. Marincess Awa Argonaut. Best extra deck card, genuinely think she's one of the prettiest extra deck card in the game. But I digress. Your opponent can only attack her with her present, so it's great to make her if you have other monsters in the back with powerful effects that you have to protect. She also has a bounce that you can use on your turn, and a spell and trap negate that is a quick effect on the opponent's turn only, which is weird, and it's only enabled if she has an equip. But that's pretty much it for her. Player 1. Since Marincess is already an extremely potent one-card combo deck, it leaves us a lot of deck space to stuff in extenders and engines that we want to play. So, this is that part. Let's talk about extenders, support cards, and engines. And again, let's begin with the main deck. Firstly, I want to go over the Shark engine, consisting of Abyss Shark, Silent Angler, Duel. These two fishes give us great and easy access to XZ summoning, specifically rank 4s, of which there are already a myriad of powerful water ones. I say that, but I mean like 2. Toad is already banned. If you do include them, I suggest playing 2 of each. 2 of Abyss Shark because of the same reason we want to play 2 dives, and 2 of Silent Angler so that Abyss Shark still has its target if you unfortunately drew one of them. Beware that Silent Angler locks you out of special summon from hand when you use its special summon effect, so my advice is play around that carefully. Trust me. Secondly, I want to mention Silent Sea Netto. Abyss Shark, while powerful, comes with a setback of running 1 or 2 semi-garnets in your deck. Netto does not suffer from this. It's a poor level 4 extender, which is already great, but it comes with a much appreciated recycle effect. By banishing itself, we can shuffle back 3 water monsters from the graveyard back into the deck, helping us to recycle our extra deck monster in drawn out games, and allow us to get away with playing Sea Angel at 1. Next, let's talk about Ice Jade's Ran Egerine. She's like our personal Long Yuan. Can discard one of our water monsters to immediately have a level 10 synchro on the board, which can normally be Chengjing or Ice Jade Gimme Egerine, or might be others if we ever get to that point. However, since these days our extra deck might get a little bit cramped, so you might have to choose a specific level 10 to include, but that depends on what you need in your deck building. Next, we have Adularia of the June Moon, a card that you might have never heard about because the gimmick is incredibly scuffed. She can summon herself when we have a field spell online, so that's like an extender, but her value lies in her second ability, sending cards in a spell and trap zone to send a level 4 monster or lower from the deck to the graveyard, which normally we have 2 candidates. Testudo, Erat, Newman, and Berry Statue of the Torrents. So you might have noticed something. They're floodgates. What do you think we'll send? MBT? Pascalus? An actual Marincess name? Get real. This Yu-Gi-Oh! We'll play floodgates the first chance we get. Regardless, after you've sent your floodgate of choice away, Coral Anemone can be used to bring them back. Then you can combo away like normal. The most basic ratio for this engine is 3 of Adularia and 1 Floodgate depending on your current meta. But you can extend the package to 1 additional Ice Barrier and 1 additional Foolish Barrier goods. Time for something more promising. The Mathmake engine. With the inclusion of Madmake Circular, one of the strongest support cards in the game in my opinion, we get access to a new deck fittingly called Marincess, or Marincess, whatever. We run a small Madmake package of 2 to 3 circular, 1 diameter, 1 sigma, and 1 super factorial, with 1 or 2 alien version and 1 Laplation in the extra deck. You can check out MBT's channel for a primer on Madmake if you aren't aware of what the silly circular line does. It's a great video, I recommend you to check it out nonetheless. The game plan is, circular can simply do its thing, then we can use our normal summon to go into our Marincess lines, use the extra body to make our towers, ending on a more powerful end board than anything Marincess can produce alone. And also rip our opponent for 3, that's really funny, trust me. Aside from that, there are many other variants of the deck, though their viability might vary, so have that in mind, that you might be interested in. I'd recommend looking into Marincess Battle Ocean, the official deck Discord for Marincess. I know this community had stances regarding deck Discord, but I think Marincess Battle Ocean has great resource for learning. So, link will be in the description. If you haven't checked it out yet, check the description. Check it! With that out of the way, let's talk about additional cards that we can use in our extra deck. Now, for this section specifically, I figured we have been kind of dragging on with all of the card introduction. In fact, don't look at the time right now. I really appreciate if you're still watching to this point. So, maybe let's try to go for a lightning round and wrap all this up. First, Fusion Monster. Never. Well, maybe except super poly targets if we're that desperate in a heavy fusion meta. But that said, I've never seen super poly in Marincess, so take that with a grain of salt. Synchro Monsters. Level 10 Water Synchro to use in tandem with Ice Jade, Ran, Egorine. Changing makes breaking your board much harder and can be a major disruption in the right matchups, while Gimmir Egorine plays as both a disruption and an insane leading to going second, something this deck very much appreciates. XZ Monsters. Level 4 waters are the only reliable options we have on the plate. Behemoth Shark and Toad are must plays if it's ever unbanned. Abyss Dweller demolish graveyard reliant decks and whichever decks that play 50 cards or above. Number 4 Stealth Kragan is a destruction effect and burn, which does come into clutch. We appreciate every bit of damage we can get. It also combos with Golden Match to be a lock, which kinda funny if you're not on the receiving side of it. Lastly, Link Monsters. Marincess Plasmage, yes, I did not stutter, is a given. It's a must play from how it enables all one card combos. What Ocean Dragon, the Atlantis, is another card that has an extremely niche effect that becomes viable in our deck. Normally, the Atlantis summon backs the monster it banishes on both sides, which is odd. However, because of the way summoning restriction works with the card, in Marincess, it becomes a one-way board wipe against non-water decks, something that our deck sorely needs. Okay, that wraps it up. On to more interesting sections. At least I hope they are. Congrats for making through all that and welcome to what I hope is the more interesting half of the video. We'll start this off with combos, but before that, I have been debating on whether I should do this section. First, because there's been so many guides on this already, and two, none of these combos are my own ideas. So, credits where it's due. Thank you first to Mildly Upset Jerbro, who has an entire channel dedicated to Marincess, and Seek, who wrote a guide for Marincess on Master Duel Meta for their combos. I do not have your permission at all, and please let me know if you want this section removed because this is none of my idea. But that said, I'll be attempting a different kind of editing for this part, and I hope this helps, so let's begin. Let's move right on to deck building, probably some of the most fun you can get playing this game. We can't play a Marincess deck without Marincess cards, so let's get that out of the way. A conventional core will probably look something like this, but feel free to make your call and change these ratios. If you want a solid basis to decide your Marincess name ratio, I'd recommend a hypergeometric calculator, or you can just look up Yu-Gi-Oh calculator on Google. In a nutshell, it helps you calculate the probability of you drawing a card or any certain combination of cards in a deck. I might try to elaborate on the subject more in the future, but for now I'll just link the calculator in the description so you can work on your own ratios. Personally, I like a ratio around 11 to 12 Marincess, excluding Sleepy Maiden, in my deck, so that means I have roughly 82 to 85% of drawing at least one of them. If I actually know how to use this thing. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Now, let's just get the taxi out of the way. 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Maxi, 2 Card Buys, and 1 Crossout. No point arguing about these. We might as well have start planning the deck out with these. Also about Crossout, since we can stuff so much staples in, Crossout become insanely powerful. So now onto other cards. To talk a bit about other staples first. Triple Tactic Talents is a great staple, because Master Duel operates on a best of one format and our deck sucks at removal. Playing board breakers in a main deck become a viable option. Droplet is a good option that can lead to very interesting interactions. But like all board breakers, it's meta reliant. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes it sucks. You might opt for Lightning Storm in a back row heavy meta. Dark Rule No More and Evenly Match are great because we can afford to drag the game on and choke the opponent out from sheer resources. We are not good at pushing damage anyway, but the former relies on a monster negate centric meta, and the latter in annoying decks that lack negations. If you do offer any of these though, Triple Tactics Tasking or Trust is a solid option as well. Another point to address is consistency. Playing Pot of Desires is a viable option, one that I actually really like. We have plenty of cards that we play at 3, which mitigates the potential drawback of Desires. It's also why it's worth considering cards that we can search, such as Ocean and Wave at 2, but in my opinion I don't think it's justifiable. While personally I play Triple Tactic Talents in place of it now, I think I should bring up this point. There's also synergy with changing in Desires. Pot of Prosperity might have some merits if you play board breakers that you want to dig for. From here, there's 2 paths you can take. You can lean into the basic hand trap path. Playing so much hand trap it becomes your actual win condition, sometimes win the game from tilting your opponent to death. Knowing what hand trap to actually play, however, is an actual skill that requires your knowledge of common matchups and the current meta, which, considering the purpose and focus of this video, I'll not cover here. You can go watch Tombox or someone else for that. The other, and more fun, to you only, path is jamming engines in to raise the potential ceiling of the deck, which may not necessarily be the most effective path, but it's fun. This really is. For this section, I want to discuss tips that I have found to be helpful when piloting the deck. Of course, this is all about personal experience, so take this with a grain of salt, and feel free to let me know anything if you disagree. Let's talk about the most basic concept for the deck, chain blocking. In a nutshell, in Yu-Gi-Oh, when there are multiple effects that wants to activate simultaneously, player can decide which to activate first. This is also known as simultaneous effects goes on chain, or SIGOC. And since most type of response in Yu-Gi-Oh can only affect the latest action in the chain, you can essentially block out important effects that you don't want your opponent to interact with. Now for an example. Let's say I use MBT to make Sea Angel. Now I have 2 effects that I can activate simultaneously, MBT Graveyard to Excavate, and Sea Angel's Spell Searching effect. As Sea Angel is the more important effect, we will place Sea Angel effects on Chainlink 1 and MBT's effect on Chainlink 2. If the opponent had, say, Ash Blossom, they can activate it, but only as a response to MBT's effect, since it is the latest action to occur. Pay attention that this won't work against something like Infinite Impermanence though, they'll just target Sea Angel on the field. Extremely important mechanic to pick on, as is also used in various other decks. That example isn't the only chain blocking you can do with the deck. Springer can work in the same way as MBT. Battle Ocean provides an extra layer of blocking once it's online. Well, at least that's if you're not lazy in actually using it. Next, I want to talk about options for your MBT mills. We have a lot of options here. Sleepy Maiden, Spring Girl, Seahorse, and Mandarin. This should go without saying, but don't send anything you already have in rotation or on your hand. Send Sleepy Maiden if you won't have access to Ocean and you still want to make our Argonaut. Send Spring Girl if you have a read on the opponent having Ash, so you can go into Boost Luck, add back Spring Girl, and use her to chain block Sea Angel. Otherwise, you can just go for the Seahorse line. Going for Pescalus or Mandarin is lower in priority in my opinion, but you can actually go for Pescalus if you can figure out a way to special summon her with Coral Anemone or Dive, so that you can special summon another level 4 from hand for some XZ plays. Mandarin can be sent for certain combos, or when you need an insurance in case you are not sure whether you have enough materials for your link plays. We should also talk about end boards, whether you want to make our Argonaut or Great Bubble Reef and in what situation. Since I am a filthy combo player, I feel like a disruption has more value, but it is my own subjective opinion. What I will say though is having our Argonauts negate to protect an Ash or Max C from Caught by the Grave is already game winning most of the time. You only be making Great Bubble Reef when you lack resource for following up in the following turns, or you want more non-engine when drawing into a heavy Marincess hand. I also believe it's worth ending on Coral Triangle sometimes, being able to have enough resource to access Marincess Wave, as sometimes it will be much more powerful than our Argonaut spell negate, and in Duel when your resource loop can get extremely scuffed at first, and or there's a lot of risk of you just outright losing your link 4, maybe a Kaiju, Ocean Removal, 2 consecutive board breakers. Trust me, it happens more often than it should. Coral Triangle can create enough initial pressure for the opponent to commit resource to her, while Wave and other hand traps eat away at the opponent's game plan. After they have committed into breaking your board, what often is getting back to Link Monster immediately, and instant access to Marble Rocks for further recursion is huge in finally swinging the game in your favor. For the last section of this video, let's talk about the pros and cons of the deck. For pros, the deck is insanely consistent. Every Marincess name in your deck, except for Sleepy Maiden, can earn a Link 4 or at least Link 3 monster by themselves. With extenders, the deck is also absolutely capable of playing through light disruption. Having such a light core set also creates the opportunity to adjust the rest of our deck against the meta, being able to fit the most optimal hand traps or board breakers for the format, which is greatly beneficial in a best of 1 format, as deck building has to be vastly different without a side deck. The Masses variant has greater emphasis on putting up a stronger initial end board and less recovery, and also making the deck tougher against disruption versus unaware opponents. You also get the added benefit of your opponent scooping if they see circular resolves. I'm not even joking, like, just playing circular is a free win, I guess. For cons though, the deck seriously lacks removal. While we have our Argonaut's bounce, she's a Link 4. Against certain floodgates, sometimes it's almost impossible to get to that point. So in a format like Master Duels, it might be mandatory to include Harpy's Feather Duster, Twin Twister, and or Cosmic Cyclone to remove back row. Furthermore, in an age where access code Talker exists and virtually every Cyber's deck can easily make one and OTK the life out of you, Marincess surprisingly has a hard time making the cards since the restriction on her cards are too heavy, and thus may struggle to cleanly finish an opponent off from time to time, and had to resort to board spam after we got a turn going, at least from my experience. Our 2 boss monsters are also vulnerable to being just beaten over if Battle Ocean is removed. Sometimes the deck crumbles immediately to any disruption to its initial summon. It's also vulnerable to being locked out of graveyard interactions. Not being able to activate effects in a graveyard is fine, the deck can play around that, but being completely locked out of graveyard access is a death sentence. We have finally reached the conclusion, and this is what I have to say. On the surface, many will see Marincess as a linear 1-card combo deck, no more than a shallow pond. However, those that dare to dive below will see a sea of opportunities with different possible build paths that this video has not even been able to all cover, and demand good understanding of the deck, your matchup, and the meta as a whole to be able to utilize at the top level. In contrary, the deck still possesses an ideal, to say the least, glaring weaknesses that stop it from being meta level, but it is one that can produce decent results competitively and is decently fun to play. Trust me, I have to play this deck for footage for over a year. I'm still insanely bad at this and the game as a whole though, so I don't know. But that was Deck Deep Dive Marincess edition. I hope the video was at least an interesting experience and at most helpful for you. Please feel free to share more tips to the deck, whether you disagree on something I said in this video and other stuff like that. We're all learning here, and any help and discussion with your fellow duelists are always welcome. What you want to see from these kind of videos, I do plan to make more, and what you want to see improve, please let me know in the comments. This is my first time doing something like this, so do go a bit easy on me. I'll see you in the next edition of Deck Deep Dive, which hopefully won't be a year away this time. Thank you so much for making it to this point, and good luck dueling, I guess. Don't get floodgates. Yeah, don't get floodgates. Okay. This is where the video ends. Cut.